This is Derek Favors, number 15 from the Utah Jazz. You're listening to Drive Time Sports with Jordan Buscarini.
3-point game. Harris, pick and roll it. Favors takes a strong and one. Oh my! Watch Derek Favors take a leap right here.
We're back on Drive Time Sports. Can you believe it's December 2nd already? We're not that far off from the NBA preseason. And don't forget the Utah Jazz. They will make their return to KOAL. There'll be 3 preseason games. And then on top of everything else, we'll gear up for the regular season, which is scheduled to begin on December 22nd. Free agency has settled down quite a bit, although LeBron James did extend his contract with the Los Angeles Lakers earlier today, signing a 2-year, $85 million max extension. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the clear winners right now with Tom Perkins. He's joining us over the phone. Tom, of course, the founder of HoopCityNews.com and also an NBA independent scout. Tom, a pleasure as always. I appreciate the time again today. Thank you.
Glad to be here. It's always a joy to be with you, Jordan.
Well, it's always fun to talk basketball with you, Tom, and we can start by the big news. Earlier today, LeBron James signing a 2-year, $85 million max extension with the Lakers. I don't believe that the 2-year max extension is a coincidence at all. I mean, obviously, when you look at it, LeBron is happy in Los Angeles. He's got kids in high school. Obviously, he doesn't want to move, and what better place to live than Malibu, right? That's where LeBron James is at. However, a 2-year deal basically tells me, Tom, LeBron is lining up a contract so that he can be a free agent and end his career with whoever drafts his son Bronny. Now, I know that's a big assumption. That's assuming that Bronny goes into the NBA, but I have very little reason to believe that that's not the case. Am I off base by that prediction?
Oh, no, that's a good prediction there because of the fact that, he is very close to his family. He loves L.A., and, of course, now, finally, L.A. loves him. L.A. didn't love him until the final buzzer clicked there on the finals. Now, L.A. loves him. So you see, he's been adopted very well, so he's going to want to stay here. And he's got major opportunities outside basketball here.
Yeah, as far as L.A. loving him, I think they love him now as much as they will love him. The bottom line is, when it's all said and done, he will go down as one of the most controversial figures in NBA history. And so for every 5 people that love LeBron, I think you got 10 that hate him. And I think he's just fine with that, Tom.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, the comparison to Kobe will always be there, and he will always lose that comparison.
Always. Yeah, I agree.
He will always be the favorite son forever. I mean, for goodness sake, Kobe's Magic Johnson's favorite son. So in other words, even Magic Johnson says that he's the best Laker ever. So, he's going to get his spot in the Hall of Fame, of course, and he's going to get his spot in the top 5 or 6 of in the history of the game, but he's not going to surpass Kobe.
No, not in L.A. Absolutely not. Tom, speaking of free agency, LeBron, it's just the first domino to fall. Anthony Davis will soon follow. When the Lakers were very active in free agency. In fact, I believe they won free agency hand down. I know that there were some other squads that really made some moves, and we can talk about the Western Conference teams, but the Lakers adding Montrezl Harrell, and then you go out and you add a Marc Gasol and Dennis Schroeder via trade with the Oklahoma City Thunder. I mean, you just look at what this team was able to do. Another shooter in Wes Matthews. Is there any doubt that the Lakers won free agency?
Oh, there's no doubt at all. And one of the key, maybe the biggest key of all in regards to the free agency for the Lakers is Wes Matthews. He's a very tough guard. He's bigger than Avery Bradley, and it allowed the Lakers to lose Avery Bradley because they got Wes Matthews. Without them getting Wes Matthews, I don't think they were really they could afford to have lost Avery Bradley. So that was a big key free agency signing. And of course, Montrezl Harrell and Marc Gasol. Everybody says, well, who's Marc Gasol? Well, he was only a NBA defensive player of the year one year and made 3 all defensive teams and was a very important cog in the Toronto championship. So he's way big. So, yeah, they've really helped their squad big time.
Let's talk about the other LA team. They lose to their main competitor in the Western Conference, there's no doubt. Last year, everyone thought that the Clippers had won free agency, and they very well may have when they landed Kawhi Leonard and pulled a trade for Paul George. But not only did they lose Harold to the Lakers, they also lose JaMychal Green. He goes to Denver, and that's a team that beat the Clippers in the playoffs last year. Now, I know they signed Serge Ibaka. That's a great bounce-back move. There's no question about it. But did the Clippers make enough improvements in your eyes to be considered a legitimate threat to the Lakers?
Yes, I do. And here's why I do. Because the signing of Serge Ibaka is very key there. Now, when you compare him directly to Montrezl Harrell is an energy guy, and he rebounds. He plays pretty tough defense. Not nearly the kind of defense that Serge Ibaka plays. Serge Ibaka is probably the premier rim defender, him and Bam Adebayo. So what I'm saying to you is that Serge Ibaka is actually, believe it or not, an upgrade to Montrezl Harrell, because Serge also has somewhat of a perimeter game and elevated his three-point shooting above 32%. So he actually can go ahead and be effective at three-point. So they actually improved their team by that one signing. And then, they keep the rest of the squad, the Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. So they keep that. And then, I think they're going to go ahead and be a nemesis for the Lakers.
Again, Tom Perkins of HoopCityNews.com, our guest right now as we talk NBA free agency ahead of preseason. We've talked Lakers, we've talked Clippers. We have to talk about the Utah Jazz, and of course a lot of smiles on Jazz fans' faces right now. A fan favorite, and Derek Favors makes his return. He's going to wear his old number 15 uniform. I don't think that Jazz fans ever wanted to say goodbye to Derek Favors, although it just seemed inevitable at some point in time that his career would be done in Utah because of all the trade rumors. So they go out. They grabbed Derek Favors, a massive upgrade from Ed Davis, who was the backup center for him last year. And I think when you look at an insurance policy for the Jazz, nonetheless, may be Favors if they have to move on from Gobert, if they can't come to an agreement on a long-term extension. On top of that, the Jazz bring back Jordan Clarkson, who was their best bench player. At times, he was their best offensive player once Bojan Bogdanovic went down. All in all, if you're a Jazz fan, you have to be pretty happy with the way things went this last offseason.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I'm sure one guy that's very happy is that wonderful guard that they've got. Mitchell. Mitchell is real happy with his contract. I mean, when you think about $195 million, that's pretty awesome. And so, yeah, that team is pretty together. Now, they're going to sign, no doubt they're going to sign Rudy Gobert because, he's way important. And sometimes, at any given game, Rudy Gobert can be the best big man in the entire league on any given game. Now, whether he can do that for a stretch of games, that's to be considered. But he certainly has the ability to be the best big man in the NBA at a given time.
All right, Tom, let's talk about another team of the Western Conference that has done very well over the last 5 or 6 years, and that's the Golden State Warriors. Bad news right out of the gate with Klay Thompson suffering an Achilles injury. You still have Steph Curry. You still have Draymond Green. There's a recipe for success there. Steve Kerr is still the head coach. They grabbed James Wiseman in the draft. Andrew Wiggins, kind of a wild card. He's still only 25 years old, but I don't know what type of potential he has, especially at this stage. You go out and you grab Kelly Oubre Jr. He's not Klay Thompson, but nonetheless, it's a nice piece. When you look at Golden State, should we consider them championship contenders?
Oh, no, not at all. Although I will throw this in the mix. It depends on how fast Wiseman learns the game. Now, he's a very advanced player, certainly for a college guy, and he's got wonderful size, got wonderful footwork. So if he accelerates his learning curve in the NBA, he could possibly get them into a playoff spot and do some little damage. But that all depends, because every team in the NBA is always going to give their rookie a break. Well, he needs time. So, no, they're not really a threat. And like you said, it's so unfortunate for Clay to have gone down. That's 2 years in a row. And what I'm afraid about, because I know a whole lot about knee injuries. I've gotten 2 knee replacements. I mean, to follow an ACL with an Achilles tendon tear, to me, that's usually game, set, match for his career. I can't imagine him coming back 2 years in a row from major surgeries. I can't imagine him coming back even at 70%. Although at 60%, he'd still be very effective. So, yeah, that's very tragic.
It is, and I guess when you look at what Klay Thompson brings to the table, when he does return, he's not going to be that lockdown defender on the wing that we've been accustomed to, and I worry about him being able to create his own shot. I think those are the 2 biggest concerns for Klay Thompson.
Yep, I think you're so right, because he was just starting to do that in the past couple of years. Be able to drive past guys, be able to penetrate the paint, and then draw fouls or finish. Finished it is the big thing, and he would finish with his left hand a lot of times. So, yeah, he was just starting to do that, and that might take a back seat now. He might have to go ahead and do some different things, because the shot will be there pretty much. But yeah, I think it looks very bleak for him moving forward, even beyond next season.
All right, Tom, let's talk one more team of the Western Conference, the Dallas Mavericks, one of the best offensive squads. In fact, they ranked first in offense with a 115.9 net rating, yet they placed in the bottom half defensively. And what did they do? Well, you send out Seth Curry, and you replace him with Josh Richardson. Try to get a little bit better defensively. The problem with this Maverick team is Porzingis is expected to be out until at least January because he had knee surgery in October. Luka Doncic is so special. However, I wonder if Dallas did enough to help out Luka Doncic. I'm such a big fan of protecting your asset. You have to do that in today's realm, especially with player movement as frequent as it is. And I was a little bit disappointed in the moves that the Mavericks made this offseason.
Well, you know, they tried to do the best they can, and Josh Richardson is not a bad pickup. But at the same time, it's not going to be enough to compete. Now, of course, they've got Luka, which is all-worldly and otherworldly, and Porzingis is seeming like always hurt. So, you know, that's a problem. You got to have your big guy to be there. Just like the Jazz found out when Rudy Gobert was down for a while. And so the big guy being 7'3", he's very talented, although sometimes he likes to play like he's 6'5", which is very disappointing to me as a scout. If you're 7'3", you never play 6'5", you know. So he relies a little bit too much on that outside shot. But if he is healthy and can, you know, get his fanny into the paint more, they could cause some troubles because of Luka. Luka's he's amazing. One thing that people don't realize about Luka, how strong he is. He's 6'7.5", and he's pretty strong. So they could do something if all the pieces and all the things go right, like Porzingis playing the correct kind of game. And whenever you evaluate teams or players, and you talk about what they need to do, what that team needs to do, what this person needs to do to make themselves successful, and you list about 4 or 5 things, that's too many things. If there's 1 or 2 things somebody needs to do, fine. But if you list a whole bunch of things that the team needs to do to be successful, they're not going to go ahead and do all of those.
Yeah, no, I think that's an excellent assessment. Tom Perkins again of HoopCityNews.com. Tom, I love the conversations. It's always fun to talk NBA free agency. Here pretty quick, we're going to have to start talking regular season because, again, we're about 3 weeks away from the start of the season, as crazy as that sounds. December 22nd, we saw the full slate of Christmas Day games, so there is plenty more to talk about. Before I let you go, however, I've got to make sure that all the listeners are aware of the work that you do at HoopCityNews.com.
Yeah, well, you know, we forecasted the draft as everybody knew that you know, I picked the draft 1 through 30, 1 through 25, and you know, I wasn't too far off on the picks. I mean, I picked LaMelo at number 1, and of course Charlotte got him at number 3, and so there was a few surprises in in the draft, but the free agency was almost even more exciting than the draft was. And of course, some of these guys signed big contracts, which I noted. Like Donovan Mitchell. But I'll tell you what, it's all going to be it's going to be pale compared to what Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to sign for. He's going to sign probably a $250 million 5-year contract, and that's about $50 million a year. So get ready for that. And he did get a nice addition, Drew Holiday. So anyway, as the season comes along, and next week starts some of the preseason games, I'll keep all the listeners posted, all the readers posted on what's going on through my hoopcitynews.com. And as the season goes along, I'll be writing articles about the season, about players, teams, and that kind of thing.
Tom, always a pleasure. Thank you so much. We'll do it again real soon.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
We're going to break for just a moment. More Drive Time Sports coming up when we return. We'll move to the world of college football right after this. Football right after this. Football right after